Hello, hello. How's it going? Long time no see. I wanted to make this video about 5G, 4G, and all these frequency technologies that we are being surrounded by. Um, a lot of people tend to ignore this particular topic, thinking that frequencies are not a big deal. There's a great number of people who are insensitive to frequencies. And what I mean by that is Um, there are people who are using Wi-Fi routers, who are living close to Wi-Fi towers and things like that, and very few people notice anything. That, however, does not mean anything at all, because there are people who are a lot more sensitive to those frequencies, and they do get ill. And I have seen this in numerous number of cases where people who were exposed to cell phones, Wi-Fi towers would notice headaches and things like that, nausea, dizziness. And if that happens with more than one person, obviously something is going on and there is a pattern. So, as most of you know, there's been 5G has been obviously implemented in a lot of networks, and oftentimes without say of the population of the citizens. It's just been rolled out and installed, and most people don't even know where those 5G towers are. The big problem is that 5G is much more powerful. I'm not too sure exactly of the how much more powerful it is than 4G, but it is definitively more powerful than 4G. And just to give some of you a bit of an idea, just in case if you ever know of anyone or yourself, or if you ever noticed how you feel around routers, how you feel around Wi-Fi towers, I would urge you to pay a little bit more attention. How your body is feeling. Are you feeling tired? Are you getting any headaches? Things like that. It's very important that a lot of people pay attention to those things and become aware how this type of technology is making us feel, and most importantly, not just make us feel, but how it actually impacts our health. Because we do know that frequency technologies and Wi-Fi have an impact on our cellular and our DNA of our body. And so a lot of people, I remember years ago, I was very sensitive to cell phones, and I used to get really dizzy, and I used to get headaches immediately the moment I would use a cell phone. And as technology progressed, I noticed that certain phones were better. So, for example, iPhones were, I found from my experience, were less impactful than other type of cell phones. For example, Samsung. I remember one of my ex-girlfriends years ago. We were in California and we were on the road, and her screen was cracked on her cell phone. And when the phone was on, I used to feel insanely sick. I would literally feel like I was going to vomit. We had to literally turn the phone off because of the effect of the phone, the radiation was emitting, and in particular when the actual glass cover was broken. So a lot of people don't really pay attention to this, as I said, and unfortunately, these people, I strongly believe, will pay with their health sooner or later. There will not be any surprises that people who are using cell phones too frequently, keeping their cell phones on in their pockets, in their pants, or next to their heart, will be suffering from all various forms of health problems. This is nothing new. There's been a lot of research done, both in Russia already in the 70s, Australia, many countries. There was a research done in Australia where they concluded that 30 minutes of cell phone exposure per day can cause a brain tumor formation within about 10 years. So this is something important, because I don't know how many people want to have cancer, I certainly would presume that most people want to be healthy, but wanting to be healthy is not enough because people need to educate themselves and make more intelligent decisions as to what they do with their health. So, as you know, recently they rolled out 5G, and 4G's been out for a while. And I noticed something very interesting. I still use 3G on my phone. However, when they rolled out 5G, I noticed that the signal on my phone was way stronger, and that actually, when I would hold the phone to my head, this started happening several weeks ago. I would start getting nauseous and dizzy, and I would start getting headaches. And this was odd because that was not happening prior to 5G with my phone. And this became a pattern. So I keep my phone far away from my head, and I usually keep it on the airplane mode, which I highly recommend. Um, so that's very interesting because, again, even though many of us use 4G or 3G, the reception now is at 5G. And just to share with you, I actually called my internet provider recently because I used to use the Ethernet cable. I never used the Wi-Fi before. And I called them and I spoke to them about the dangers of 5G. And the guy on the other, the service guy was quite understanding of what I was talking about. And he actually uh, reduced the frequency output to 2.5 for me, which is something that people can do, but they just don't know. So we actually, if you call your service provider, you ask to so that you don't receive the 5G frequency. What else is very interesting as of recent, something to keep in mind. So there's an increase in headaches, increase in dizziness and nausea when using cell phones nowadays for a lot of people who are more sensitive and a lot of people who are receiving the 5G frequencies to their phones. But also one thing that I noticed recently is a lot more heart attack cases, which is peculiar because there seems to be a pattern, and especially amongst men. And I've never seen it that much in my life as somebody who works in healthcare. And again, this is a educational topic once again, and for everybody to do their own research. But I did notice a pattern, and unfortunately, I noticed recently there's been a lot more people with heart problems, especially men, and dying from them. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. For some reason, there's some weird things going on with this 5G technology. And radiation is, everybody knows that radiation can cause mutation in the cells, right? So just to give you an idea, what happened recently, actually, just to kind of uh, give a better picture of what I'm talking about. So as of a few weeks now, I have a router. I don't use the Ethernet cable. I'm using it at 2.5 gigahertz, not 5 or not even 4 or 3. And I noticed that my plant that was above my router, the leaves actually started to become black, as if it is scorched by fire. And to me, that is kind of weird because there's no fire, you know, and it's really the only plant that's close to the router. So I'm a bit suspicious about this because I'm starting to see a lot of patterns. And there's a lot of plants, a lot of trees that are growing close to those Wi-Fi towers and smart meters. And they're also turning brown and drying up. So there is a pattern, there's a distinctive pattern to the influence or impact of this type of radiation on all kinds of life forms. So this radiation is certainly cooking people's cells up and people's organs. I mean, if you put yourself in a microwave, what are you doing to yourself, right? I mean, you're basically cooking yourself. And being exposed to this kind of frequency 24/7 definitely will have harmful impact on the cellular organ health and also on the DNA. of the people who are being affected. So this is a big topic because there's too many patterns repeating themselves. Many people being sick, many people not feeling too well when using cell phones or being close to Wi-Fi towers. There are people who don't feel much of a difference, but then again, that doesn't mean that the technology does not affect them. Because like if you look at the scenery um, of miners, right? The miners, when digging underground, oftentimes would not be able to smell certain gases, right? And many miners would die because of that until they start introducing the what is it called? I think it's a canary bird. They would introduce canary birds in cages to mines, that because canaries are extremely sensitive to certain gases, and those birds would actually die when they would inhale certain harmful gases underground. So I would say certain people who are much more sensitive to this type of frequencies, they're kind of like canaries in a coal mine. They are actually the individuals who are able to perceive and sense the impacts of this type of frequencies, and should be, in my very honest opinion, considered. People don't need to believe any of this stuff, especially when they don't feel it, but they should consider it. Why? Because there's things we don't feel, and there's things that someone else may be capable of perceiving and could even save our life. So in my frank opinion, do yourself a favor. Turn off your router at your home. Get yourself an Ethernet cable, and or at least to make sure you turn off your router at night. One thing I noticed over many years is that even since 4G, that this technology, these frequencies, impact our health so much that it affects our sleep. Many people now in the so-called Western world are suffering from insomnia, incapable of getting proper sleep at night, and therefore people are not getting proper rejuvenation and healing and restoration of their bodies, which impacts their health down the road and promotes aging at a much faster rate. And I noticed for many years now that this technology has had a very bad impact on my sleep and many other people's sleep, to a point where I actually bought certain things, like something called Aries Industries pendant. You might want to get that one. It's quite effective for Wi-Fi radiation, up to a point, of course. I don't know yet anything that could completely shield you other than maybe Faraday cage or a certain type of material that you can wear. So anyways, I invested several years ago, I invested in a type of a blanket. It's that's made of silver and copper and some other things in it, and it actually blocks the Wi-Fi radiation or frequencies, if you want to call it that way. And I noticed really a big improvement in my sleep. And that whenever I would use this blanket, literally it would feel like sleeping outdoors in nature. And when I didn't use the blanket, I actually would not feel very well. I was restless and tossing and turning. So again, that's another proof that this technology, this Wi-Fi, these frequencies that we are being exposed to, we are all in a soup of this right now. I mean, some people may argue, oh, well, what is it going to do to you? It's just one router or one, you're just, why are you complaining? But the issue is that it's not just one router. It's not just one phone. We are being exposed to hundreds and thousands of other people who are living around us, whose devices have quite a far reach in terms of radiation. So it's like an overlapping fields of radioactivity that are impacting our health. And I don't know if you have noticed, but I have noticed a lot more people having cancer too. Does it have anything to do with Wi-Fi and all this stuff? Quite potentially could be the case. Because of, if you add 1 plus 1 plus 1, you get 3, plus 1, you get 4. And most health conditions are caused by a collective variety of factors. That means, unhealthy diet, unhealthy lifestyle, um, drinking unclean water, stress, Wi-Fi, radio waves, you name it. You put it all together, and soon enough, you find that a human being is under tremendous influence of harmful factors. And most people don't get proper nutrients to rebuild their bodies and to rebuild their DNA. And this is creating the disease today. This is causing all these issues with depression, psycho-emotional issues, aches and pains, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Of course, you could, again, what I'm saying is it's a combination of factors when you put everything together. So this is something to very seriously consider for those of you who want to be healthy. If you don't want to, that's of course personal choice. No one's going to make anyone believe or question anything if they don't want to. But it's important to consider things if you do want to stay healthy, because your health is pretty much everything, and our health is irreplaceable. You may have millions of dollars in your account, but once you lose your health, it may not be that simple to regain it. And I know quite a lot about that because I take care of a lot of patients. And I dread to see people getting sick and unnecessarily. So these are just a few things here that I brought up for those of you to consider. My final words of advice are: call your company that you're dealing with, who's providing your internet and things like that. Just ask them to reduce the frequency from 4 or 5G to 2.5. It still works quite well, by the way. Turn it off at night. Invest in the special Wi-Fi protective blankets that you can cover yourself at night. Very strongly recommend, if you can, replace your router with a Ethernet cable. Also, I recommend to replace your smart meter with an old school meter, because the smart meters emit a lot of radiation as well. And just stay curious, educate yourself. It's your health, it's your life. It's in your own hands, whatever you choose to do. Whether you believe what I say or not, it doesn't really matter, because I've done my homework, and it is your duty now. It is your duty now to educate yourself and take care of yourself and your family, if you want them to stay healthy. A lot of people say they want to stay healthy and they want their family members to stay healthy, but the decisions that they make are very uneducated, and a lot of people just ignore things until it's way too late. And I think that is not an intelligent approach. You leave things too late, far too long, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. It's the cause and effect. Simple as that. So yeah, take care of yourself. Consider what I'm saying. Let it in. Let yourself think through what I just said, and consider this, because if you're not sensitive enough, then as somebody who is sensitive and who has seen many people who are sensitive to this type of frequencies, I'm sharing this with you for your own good, considering how harmful this can be. And now we are getting bombarded by these frequencies from every direction, including satellites that are going to be sending these frequencies. And in the near future, they're planning to move to 6G and 7G, 8G, 9G, and so forth, which is going to be very interesting for those of us who choose to stay living in the cities. All right, Happy New Year, be well, stay healthy, and stay curious. Take care.